FNAF 4 is one of the most controversial moments in the entire series, and for a series that regularly kills off its prime demographic, that's saying a lot. The most confusing point for many being the bite that ends the game, the bite of 83, which many people mistake for the bite of 87. So much so that when you actually look up the bite of 87 on Google Images, you get multiple pictures of FNAF 4. So today, I aim to remedy this confusion and talk in depth about what could possibly have happened at the end of this game, and what in turn it would mean for the series as a whole. Alright, let's do it. The seemingly more popular idea is that yes, FNAF 4 takes place in 1983, however this bite was just an accident. That crying child's tears loosened the spring locks of Fredbear and caused the mouth to shut with insane force, crushing his skull. And honestly, this could be the case. Maybe it was Scott's intention. However, based on everything we know about this series, the fact that this is a spring lock failure, frankly, is impossible. Let me explain. In FNAF 3, we learned about the spring lock suits and how dangerous they actually are. Their spring lock mechanisms make the suits really dangerous when being worn by an employee. But that's the keyword here, when being worn. The spring lock mechanism of the suit, which itself is also referred to as a spring lock, is what moves the robotic bits that actually move the animatronic to the edge of the suit, allowing for an employee to climb inside. Quote from FNAF 3's phone calls. To change the animatronics to suit mode, enter and turn firmly the hand crank provided by the manufacturer. Turning the crank will recoil and compress the animatronic parts around the sides of the suit, providing room to climb inside. Please make sure the spring locks are fastened tight to ensure the animatronic devices remain fixed. So, the danger from these spring lock animatronics comes from these robotic parts being moved to the side. Since if the spring lock mechanisms fail, the parts that actually make the robot move will want to shoot back into place, which is where your body is. This is why Springtrap is both human and animatronic, because while William was inside, the spring locks failed, causing the endoskeleton to try and occupy the same space as his body, creating absolutely agonizing pain. However, during the bite of 83, when Crying Child is in Fredbear's mouth, Fredbear is in animatronic mode, not suit mode. We can tell this since there is no head inside the mouth already, like there was earlier in the game when we see Purple Guy helping someone into this same suit. So, since the spring locks aren't moving any robotic parts away, they do not have the ability to fail. Besides, even if this was a spring lock failure, there would be no robotic bits to move away in the mouth, since all it does is open and close. There's no need for spring locks in an area that's just open air and has no actual animatronic parts. So, in this moment, Fredbear is operating just like how any other normal unpossessed animatronic would, like any Chuck E. Cheese animatronic would, or how any It's a Small World ride animatronic would work. So the question moves from is this a spring lock failure to could a normal animatronic actually crush a skull? And again, the answer is no. Animatronics, while kept under wraps for the most part, are reliant on pneumatic actuators to move. Basically a piston from Minecraft, but using air pressure to move the pistons up and down. And while this can move a lot of weight, in this case it doesn't need to, okay? We're talking about an animatronic jaw. And as we can see in the same bite clip, the pistons pushing Crying Child's skull are only moving the top 3/4 of Fredbear's face, which means that they can be much smaller and still get the job done. And they are. Because no way you're getting an actuator that can move the leg and then putting it in the jaw. It's not cost effective. And William is a businessman after all. So, what does all this mean? Well, basically, moving the Fredbear head would require around 40 to 50 psi, or pounds per square inch, to actually move, which is far below the required amount to actually crush a skull, which MatPat estimates is around 1900 psi, which in context would mean that the animatronic head was biting down with a force 38 to 47 times the power that would be actually required to move the head. And that's only what's needed to move the head up. Moving it down wouldn't use any force because it's just gravity doing all the work. So how could Crying Child's skull have been crushed? Well, at this point, it would have had to be a super-powered animatronic, which wouldn't make sense unless we remember who we're talking about here. William Afton's goal is to kids using these animatronics. Thanks to FNAF AR's Fast Facts, we know that the Funtime robots were among some of the first animatronics built by Afton, meaning he always intended on killing even before his kids got killed. So, superpowering an animatronic so it can kill isn't out of the question, especially if he wants to use it as a backup suit in case Spring Bonnie fails. In order for this damage to occur, William would have had to install industrial strength actuators into Fredbear's mouth. They're as long as a child's wingspan and require their own separate air compressors to function. And that would have to be going both ways, because again, gravity would be doing all the work just letting it go down, so it would have to be pushing down, which clearly indicates that this is intentional. And for those who live by MatPat's word and consider it law in this series, he agrees with me. He made a whole video on this subject as well that states that this could not be a spring-lock failure and that it could not be a normal animatronic. What does this mean for the series then? How does this change the things that we know? Well, it instantly puts Crying Child up as a candidate for the one you should not have killed. While William may not have taken his life directly, he did superpower Fredbear's jaw, which did kill him. And unlike with Elizabeth, this isn't because he didn't listen to William. This is because William changed the animatronic. If he hadn't done so, his son would still be alive. William would certainly consider Crying Child one that he should not have killed. Secondly, since at this point we know that the two animatronics present at this location are Spring Bonnie and Fredbear, and the fun times would then come next, thanks to Fast Facts again, Golden Freddy may not have even been created yet. Scott also used his son's picture for the face of the one you should not have killed in Ultimate Custom Night, which does not feel like a coincidence considering how Crying Child is William's son. And most importantly, Crying Child dies in the hospital after being bit. We hear the flat line at the end of the game as the screen fades, and I doubt that they have that equipment in a Fazbear restaurant, meaning that the Fredbear animatronic and Golden Freddy, if he was even created yet, were nowhere to be seen. This would in turn mean that the Golden Freddy we see jittering at the end of Ultimate Custom Night isn't because of Crying Child possessing the robot, but because that's what he remembers. A golden bear animatronic is what killed him. It also explains how William is being tormented by the nightmare animatronics that only Crying Child could see in FNAF 4, and why in Midnight Motorist William is orange and not purple, because at the time his son was still alive, meaning he wasn't possessed by him yet, which is where the color purple comes from, and why the orange man was included seemingly at random. Again, FNAF 6 was all about tying up the loose ends, right? So this is tying up a loose end. It also lines up with the boy we see representing the one you should not have killed in the man in room 1280, since Crying Child is a boy. This also means that Cassidy is the only soul inside of Golden Freddy, and that the only animatronic to contain two souls is the Stitch Wraith. The line of "It's me" from FNAF 1 makes sense if the animatronics think that Mike is William, as we learn in Sister Location, since Cassidy would say, "Hey, it's me, Cassidy, one of your victims." Or it could be written off, since at that point the game had no deeper story, or at least not 9 games worth of it. And Crying Child wasn't even introduced yet, making it unlikely that Scott would put the unseen killer's son in the animatronic, especially since it was his last attempt at making it in the game industry. He wasn't really all that confident in it. If you're still not convinced, okay, after all of this, please put any questions you have in the comments and then include the hashtag of TOYSNHK, okay, just all at once, okay? Standing for the one you should not have killed. That's how I put it in my scripts. And I will go live on like Instagram or something to try and answer all the questions that you have, okay? Link to that is in the description, and or also just CheeseKing03, alright? Because I am 100% certain that Crying Child is the one you should not have killed, and I am willing to die on this hill. I am willing to give my life to William Afton because I am that positive, okay? It has more evidence and it has more literary significance. That's all the time we have for today, friends. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.